We got it. No. This is how it goes. Welcome to the Wild Pineapple Farmstead. I'm here with my brother Tyler and my father Bill. We're going to be going through our property. It's 20 acres on the Big Island of Hawaii, and we're going to show you a little bit of what it actually takes to have a homestead here on the island and kind of show you what we're doing and why we're doing it. So Tyler, tell me a little bit, since you're the brainchild here of the reason we're kind of here, tell me a little bit of why you had this idea and what was kind of the purpose behind why we ended up coming to this place on the Big Island.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I was working in corporate life, just miserable behind a computer screen, and kept thinking there's got to be a different way to live life. I was working in private wealth management at one of the biggest private banks in the world, and all the clients that would come in and chat with me, they said, you know, I've got this big pile of money, but you know what I wish I had more of is time. And I could spend my $300 million and not get a second back of my life. Hearing that over and over and over again over a decade, it just really started planting seeds in my mind on maybe a 9 to 5 to 65 doesn't have to be my life. I just saw people coming to that final stages of their life and not any more happier and just wishing they had that time back. Nicole and I, we just started traveling the world and seeing where could we go live a more simpler life on a small fixed income. You know, go through time, we're up fishing in Alaska, we're spreading the same conversations, and it seemed like more people in the family wanted to live that sort of lifestyle. And so here we are on the Big Island.
So tell us a little bit about why did we end up choosing this property specifically behind us?
Yeah, I mean, I think this property more or less chose us. I had a friend that was out looking, and we went through different stages of how it's chose us. You know, the very first, I had a buddy, he was looking for property in Missouri. For some reason, this piece of land was actually posted on a Missouri U.S. land sale page, but it was clearly a Hawaii property, so I passed it on. At that point, you know, Dad reached out to the owner and said, hey, we want to come and check out your property. And they started a friendship, and then it just ended up being, once we arrived here, and once these gates opened up and we walked on it, it was just that feeling of coming home. We had looked at dozens of properties here on the Big Island prior to that. We knew what we wanted. We saw the vision here.
And tell us a little bit about, like, what's the purpose behind what we're doing? Like, what's the mission that we have as a family to kind of the end goal, the vision that we have here?
I think it's just living an intentional life. If it boils down to it, you know, being aware of where your power comes from, being aware of where your water comes from, you know, sourcing both yourself, so you're not relying on municipalities providing that through grid, and down to your food, you know, understanding it's a hot topic now, understanding what food is being provided to you really was a concern. It was something that my life partner Nicole was really teaching me how to really pay attention to the food we're consuming, and that we're being lied to more or less about what is good and bad for us. And so, you know, I think we all had a passion within a family of you know, living healthy and being active, and the fuel we take in is a big part of that too. And then all the way down into, you know, just being intentional with how we're spending, you know, money, time, efforts, labor, charity, all those things are just all commodities, and it just happens to be in the Big Island. A lot of those things trade at a higher value than the actual physical currency.
What are the things that most people get wrong if they're thinking of having a similar type of lifestyle? What have we learned that we thought we understood when we first bought the property, but we really didn't until we actually started getting into the efforts that we have been making here?
Well, probably the first thing that we learned is that it's never easy. There's always work that's got to be done. So if somebody wants to have a property like this, you have got to be willing to put out the physical labor. I grew up on a farm and worked on a cattle ranch in my younger years. I worked in power plants, then had my own little ranch, and I understood the concept that it required hard work to accomplish things. Got to have a vision and then work towards that vision. When we first came here, it felt like home. And everything was roses, it seemed, and it still was, but the hard work that it took. Now, hard work also comes in another form, and that's relationships with others. When you move into a property like this, you're bringing in years of living other lives, and now you're trying to meld those together. And when you're melding those together, you have concepts and thoughts and opinions that are just different. And so you can allow that to either destroy your dream, or you can sit down and try to open your mind up more and be more aware of the other person's feelings and thoughts and approaches to things. For you, you might think that somebody's doing something wrong. Like I'm always seeing Tyler doing something, and it's just not the way I would do it. But in my own mind, I just allow him to do that, because in the end, what I have learned over the last 3.5, 4 years we've been here, what I've learned is that he's just as hard a worker, more of a creator than I might be. But he has learned from me the mechanics behind things. So if you're going to build a chair, you want to make sure that it'll actually support the weight. But he adds to that the beautiful artwork that goes with it. Learning to live together can be probably one of the most difficult things to get through those first 2 or 3 years.
Okay, well, come with us. We're going to show you what a lot of that hard work has produced here on the property in order for you to better understand what it takes and maybe inspire you to live a similar type of lifestyle.
Over time, we've started pushing back the jungle and exposing trees and exposing things. We have a big African tulip tree. It's the only tree we have here. It's just a beautiful tree, and it marks the beginning of our property. As you go through, you see that it's open, but when we first came, it wasn't this open.
Tree that we really love is this rainbow eucalyptus. Tyler and Nicole have been planting these throughout the property, and they have shot up quite a bit. They started off about 4 feet tall, and now they're about 30 feet tall.
You can always tell a tree likes where it's at because it'll just take off. Yeah. Now, the forest here is mostly ohia, lehua. The ohia tree with the lehua flower in it. That's what this rainforest is.
So we'll come up here over to the shop. Starting here, Dad, what's this area been used for mostly?
When we first came, this was all jungle in here. But I knew in order to be able to do all the work that needed to be done at the shop, I needed to create a roundabout, go around the shop and come out. So we opened this all up, and as we were doing more work, we realized that we're going to need to stockpile gravel and cinders and that. And so I just opened this up enough to where we have 3 piles of different sized rock.
What's the red cinder used for compared to this darker, larger rock?
Yeah, so over here we had what they call 2.5 or 3 inch drain rock. You can lay drain rock to start with. It helps with the drainage of the water to pull it away. Then you can go on top of drain rock and put this 1.5 minus. 1.5 minus is a road base for these little gravel driveways and the roads. And then on top of that 1.5 you put the red cinder. And the unique thing about red cinder is that it breaks down, but it never rounds over. The gray rock, as it wears, it kind of starts getting rounded, and it'll actually roll on you, especially in this dry time that we're in now. This stuff starts moving on us. But if you get the red cinder on it and start packing it, it actually breaks down almost a fine powder over time, but that packs. In the orchards and that, we'll use red cinder when we're putting in perennial peas. It drains water well. So we use it in the garden too.
Tyler, we're heading up here to this first kind of structure that you've built over here by the shop. What was this structure built for?
You know, moving to the island, I thought I was going to be the only friend living out here, like of my social network. But as soon as I got out here and I had friends visit, they all wanted to come and share the island with me. So we got to talking, and one of my good friends, one of my best friends, also served in the Marine Corps. He came out here with his wife and started a wood fire pizza oven food truck, trailer pull food truck. We knew he was going to need a lot of wood to support that business, and so we just decided, hey, we've got a lot of ohia that we've gotten from our clearing. It's a great wood to use for this. And so we told him we would build him a dry shed, and that's what it is behind us, to dry the wood. And that way he always has a stockpile of wood to supply that business. So it's just one of those trade commodities that we have, and it's nice to share those sorts of things with our friends. So
what happened here with the gate, Tyler?
This is a Salvador Dali piece that my dad was practicing with. Nope. The gate just was like malfunctioning, and it opened on us as we were pulling out to go get some mulch. Yeah. And unfortunately, aluminum in a big truck, they don't really work well when they collide together. and it just bent it, and we're in the process of sourcing a new gate now. So.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So over here also, just want to point out, whenever we find nice straight logs, we'll peel all the bark off of them, and we use them for vertical posts. We use them for a lot of different things. So all these windows, these particular windows came from a friend of mine in town. He's remodeling his house, and he had all these old windows in it. I just told him I wanted all of them, and so he's been giving them to us. But before we came, we also began sourcing. Tyler was a big one for sourcing stuff from remodels there in Denver. And we came with a lot, and you'll see it inside the shop here as we go by. But, and then we utilize it for building these little dry sheds.
And then tell us about your bees.
Oh, yeah. So most of my life I've had bees, or I've been around bees. My father had about 60 hives, and I knew we wanted to have bees here. So a friend of ours, his wife and I, we went to a beekeeping class. I wanted to learn what was needed here in Hawaii, what kind of diseases or pests or problems we may have in Hawaii. And then from that class, I picked up 2 hives from her. And then I did some work for her, and she gave me a 3rd hive, did some bartering. So with these 3 hives, we'll be able to have more than enough honey. In fact, just the other day, I harvested just 1 bee super and 6 other deep frames, and we end up with over 5 gallons of honey. And most of it is this lehua honey, so out of the ohia trees, and it's just a phenomenal honey. It's very good.
What things are you guys using the honey for? And
we're replacing sugar cane, you know, the #1 drug in the world.
So Tyler, tell us about this new tractor you guys ended up picking up and why you guys picked it up, as well as what's underneath this tarp.
Yeah. So yeah, we're always keeping our eye out for good deals on the island because it's hard to get stuff here. And I came across this 4x4 backhoe. It's a similar model to the one we also have, our second one. And I just sent it off to my dad and said, hey, I think this might be a good opportunity to pick it up. For the price, I figured that the tires are worth that alone. And so our plan is to refurbish this because it is a 4x4 and our other one isn't. It's a 2-wheel drive. And out here during the rainy season, 4x4 is incredibly important. It's the only way you can really get around, either that or track. And we don't have track hose out here on our property. So,
and you can see it's been sitting there a while. We got that little bush coming out.
Yeah. Right there. I mean, that could have been 2 weeks worth of growth.
3 weeks of growth, yeah. 2 or 3 weeks.
Everything out here grows so fast. But yep, that's a project. We just have other things prioritized. And once we have the money to put into it, then we're going to buy the rebuild kit and get going on it. So.
Yeah. So the total cost of that will probably be about $6,000 to $7,000 to get it back on the road working. But it's a $15,000 backhoe, so it's well worth the money. Inside the shop here, when Tyler was getting ready to come, I had gone to the mainland to help him load his container. So I knew how much stuff he was going to be bringing, especially building material. So when I came back, we went ahead and extended out on the end of the shop here and built a storage area where we could store everything. Long term, we can utilize this for doing repairs on vehicles or parking the backhoe, whatever.
And then Tyler, what's this little prize underneath here?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So my entire life I've wanted to restore a VW bus, and almost the opposite of me showing Dad the backhoe, he said, hey, I just saw this Volkswagen bus on the Facebook Marketplace. I think the price is right. And it sure was. We went out there, just needed a battery. It started right up. It has a ton of body work to be done, but this is going to be my phase 2 projects where most of my time is going to go to after we're done with the infrastructure on the homestead here. Me and Nicole, we want to, we have a little business we're starting called Mountain Mermaid Apothecary, and we're just going to be selling all sorts of home remedies, primarily teas and other herbs and stuff. And there's a big roadside vendor community out here. And so we're just gonna pull up on our dope ass bus and hang out and drink good tea, and whoever comes by and wants to share time with us, we'll have tea for them as well. So
yeah.
But yeah, I got all the body parts. I just need the time now to get it all put together.
All right, Dad, show us this baby of yours, the sawmill. And
when we were coming out here, well, whatever homestead we were going to, the one thing I really wanted to make sure we had was a sawmill. lumber at that time, that was around COVID time, and lumber was just going out the roof. I did a lot of studying and YouTube watching, and basically narrowed it down to a Woodland Mills sawmill. I got 2 extensions for it, so I could do up to a 20-foot beam or log. And since I've been here, we have milled just a ton of beams and logs and building lumber that we've utilized. Like that whole place where my bees are at, that's all was milled off the mill. The other one was also all milled except for the siding and the windows. We've utilized it quite a bit. Right now I've got a huge eucalyptus log on it. Some beams are going to come out of that for mine and Susan's little bedroom cottage.
Show us the rest. A lot of it has to do with the mill. So
yeah, so I started out with just putting up a temporary structure, and temporary structures are never temporary around here, it seems like.
Yeah.
Just a place where I could put my beams and cants into. And the cover blew off it, so I put a new cover on, and about 1.5 years later that cover blew off. So I just said I need to do something a little bigger and more permanent. So that's when I built this bigger one just about a week ago. It's got 1 3/8 top rail that I bent using some benders, and yeah, it turned out much better. It's a lot bigger. It's 20 foot square, about 10 foot center. Got plenty of room. I'll be able to get all of these beams in there, plus more that I've got milled just underneath tarps and stuff. I'm going to get them out from under the tarp.
Yeah, as you can see over here, the jungle can this entire area was completely cleared out, and you can see the jungle can really take things over. So maintenance is a really big part of owning a property like this. It's probably 50% of what you do. You have to be aware of how much work and development you're putting into a property, because you also have to maintain it to make sure that the jungle doesn't creep in and take over the areas, because soon enough something you have tarped is swallowed up by the jungle and you will never find it again, or at least you're gonna have to dig it out again.
You know, great big beautiful lawns are nice and pretty, but that's just a lot of time mowing. And so we have as much lawn as we're ever going to want, and we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
We're not going to put any more lawns in.
Yeah.
Because we got enough weeds in that we've got to deal with.
Well, let's just take a quick look at your shop.
The shop itself is a 30 by, well, with the extension on, it's 56 feet, so we'll just call it 30 by 60. Plenty big, but it's all dirt floor. When we first got here, I poured some concrete on the right side here so I can get my toolboxes and stuff out of the dirt. Long-term vision is to take and have a complete floor in here and set up the table saws and everything so we have a decent workflow and a place for everything. Along all the walls we'll have bins to store stuff. Having had a small ranch out in the middle of nowhere, it was 35 miles to a hardware store, so I always kept spare parts in that. Well, here it's it's about 25 miles to a hardware store, so basically the same thing. So we're going to keep spare parts and stuff here so we don't have to make a trip town all the time. Plus I'll have stuff if neighbors need my help. We're all about community and helping the other neighbors around here in what we do. It's a typical shop. We've got a bandsaw, we got a table saw, we got a compressor. I've got resharpening tools. I can resharpen circular blades like on a skill saw or a chop saw. I can resharpen all the bands for my big bandsaw mill.
A lot of people might come in, they might want to be doing stuff like this. What have we learned as some of the most important pieces of equipment or tools needed in order to, fulfill the vision that you would have on a piece of property here on the Big Island?
Yeah, so when you have a piece of property, you're going to have equipment. The equipment is dependent on what your skill level is or what it is you're wanting to accomplish. We have a 20-acre piece of property and we live on a rock. It's all volcanic rock and that. And we quickly began to realize that just hand labor with shovels and that wasn't enough. So that's why we bought the backhoe. The backhoe is probably one of our
number one
pieces of equipment that we have. It just does a lot of heavy work for us. so that, you know, I'm 69 years old. I'm not any younger. I'm not going to get any younger. It's going to, so hydraulics on that backhoe just saves backs and arms and legs.
What about tools?
Then tools, a basic set of mechanic tools. You know, I brought all my tools with me over a period of 50 years of having tools. Tyler brought tools with him. But being out here isolated in areas and no utilities, we live completely off grid, we started investing more in battery operated tools. And we stayed with one product rather than having different ones. We stayed with one product, that way we have one charger, one type of battery, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we didn't go with like Ryobi and Milwaukee and Makita and...
We chose Milwaukee. Yeah, we love Milwaukee. We're a Milwaukee family.
So we stuck with Milwaukee. Yeah. It's always done well for us, Milwaukee has.
So out of, let's say, 5 Milwaukee tools, what would you say are like 5 really good Milwaukee tools? Hedge trimmer, the mini chainsaw, drill.
The reason he jumped out and said hedge trimmer to begin with, early on we found that the hedge trimmer, when we're trying to cut trails through the jungle, that stuff just chops up all those vines and everything really easy. Much better than trying to use a machete. But yeah, a drill, small impact driver, even a large impact driver. I have a 1/2-inch drive impact driver. I utilize it too. Grinders, because I've got 2 grinders, one that's got a grinding wheel on it, but the other one's got a wire wheel on it. And that way I don't have to switch things around. I just use the 2 of them.
Yeah.
But those would be your basic ones.
What about a generator? How important has a generator been?
Generator also, when we're off grid, the generator, even though we have solar, we go for many days without any sun because we're in the rainy season. And so at the house we have a 18,000 watt backup generator, diesel generator. Here at the shop I've got a 9,000 watt generator to run my 240 volt table saw and the other saws in that. Then we do have a smaller generator that I can throw on a trailer and take it if I'm helping people on a job site or something. And so, yeah, generators are important to have when you're living off grid, especially. So another piece of equipment that we use all the time is the 4-wheeler. Just on a whim, just before I left, I bought that 4-wheeler for 3 ETH. Yeah. We utilize it all the time. Got a little trailer we can pull behind it, and we're always hauling stuff or pulling logs. I've got a winch on the front of it. There's just all kinds of things you can do with that 4-wheeler.
Even though we love nature and we're out, we're a huge tech family, and crypto has been one of the ways that we've tried to be self-sufficient and governing our own sovereignty of wealth and stuff. And so we love all things that we can have more control of.
So a key element also when you're living off grid and living in a community is to help other people, to network, because you never know when you may need help from them. And so a big example of that is in the background there is a dump trailer. Belongs to a good friend of mine, Byron Tate. And I'm always doing work for Byron, and he has allowed me to use that dump trailer anytime I want. Anytime I break something on it or a tire goes flat, I fix it, I repair it. So it's almost like I am part owner in it. I mean, he just literally allows us to use it whenever we want. So it's also a trailer is a key part of when you're living off grid or living on property. A trailer becomes very useful item.
Tyler, now that we've had some of our other family members, why don't you tell us a little bit about yours and Nicole's effort with the dogs on property?
I mean that all started way before we even came to Hawaii. We just have a passion for animals, things that can't really defend themselves, and unfortunately in the world dogs can get thrown by the wayside. So all of our dogs are rescues. Big furry guy here, Scooter, he's my service dog. Woolly Akita, he's about 7 years old. And then Birdie, who just ran in, again also a rescue. That's Nicole's service dog. And there are 3 more up at the house. So it's hard to pass by a dog on the side of the road that is shivering in the rain and not want to try to help out. And so it's more Nicole than anything. She makes the big effort and drive into making sure all of our decisions on the property really do have the animals well-being and welfare in mind. And that does come across different philosophies on things, and we're all trying to keep an open mind and move forward to just make sure everything's being looked at when we're interacting with not only ourselves and humans, but the animals around us.
This area over here is cleared out now, but it's one of the areas that we bring in mulch and dirt, and I'll take the time to mix that mulch and dirt together, and then we use that throughout the property when we're replanting trees, when we're planting new trees, or we have areas we need to fill in. The mulch here on the island, you can get it for free on the first Saturday. You can get 3 yards, or you can pay, is it $10 a yard?
$10 a yard.
Yeah, on the second Wednesday of each month, you can go in and buy 6 yards. Or we usually go in and buy 6 yards on the second Wednesday. And then we just find a place to dump it. We've started using this area more specific, but we have piles all over the place. A lot of times we'll come in with a load of mulch and just dump it in an area where we need to work. Susan, my wife, she used to come up and see me in the shop when I'd be working. And every time she came up, she'd immediately have to go back to the house, go to the bathroom. And so I told her I'd make her a bathroom. Well, she thought I was just going to build a little outhouse with a hole in the ground. And instead, on that end of the shop, I actually built her like a full-size bathroom. And I use it when I'm done working, especially with the mill and that, and I got all that sawdust. I'll just go in there and take a shower before I go back up to the main house.
The shop area is a little bit of a mess, only because it's kind of a staging area to help try to get things done while we are working on other parts of the property. As you can see over here, we have some other staging areas for different materials like bark and mulch. But as we go through, you're going to be going into some of the most beautiful parts of our property. We are starting an avocado orchard over here by the shop. We're going to show you what we've been working on this week when it comes to the other parts of the orchard. We just extended the citrus orchard into another part of the property. So come on and take a look.
Another big rainbow eucalyptus. This was our first orchard that we planted in here. So that very first tree is a loquat. This is a cacao, but we call it our sacrificial cacao. It gets all the bugs on it. The rest of our cacaos down in the trees, they're doing really well. This one here is a mango. We're going to move this into a greenhouse and control its height and growth and see if we can actually get mangoes off. We're at a 1,600 foot elevation here, and it gets a little too cold. Mangoes need a little more heat. So by putting it in the greenhouse, we can control temperature and water and that. And then we had different citrus, but in the back there, that tall skinny tree is a cinnamon tree. So we can get our own cinnamon bark and make our own cinnamon. And then we just have lemons and tangelos and oranges. This Myers lemon is really starting to produce quite a bit of lemon.
Tyler, why don't you kind of show us a little bit what we've been working on this week on the new orchard that we just put in?
Yeah, so this wasn't going to be big enough for all the citrus we wanted to have, and all of this is really just for ourselves at this point. We don't know how much it's going to produce, and so we planted it with that in mind. We were planting more just to sustain us and maybe guests that came on the property. But as anybody knows with citrus trees, sometimes you get to the point where they're just producing way too much for your own consumption, and so at that point we'll make decisions on whether or not we're gonna take it to market or anything like that. But with that in mind, we wanted more variety. Here on the Big Island, you have the opportunity to grow so many different varieties of every type of fruit you can possibly imagine, and so we just wanted to have a little variety on the property and kind of see what worked best up here. And so this area that you see pushing out behind me, this used to be as dense as the forest just on the back side of it. And so I picked a space in kind of a path that would make it so I didn't have to cut down very many, if any at all, of any of the mature ohia trees. They're already being attacked by something here on the island called rapid ohia death, and I didn't want to just take down trees unnecessarily. So we tend to be a little more surgical with our clearing instead of just clearing out a big swath of land. And so that's what you see here. That's why it's kind of an odd shape as it works its way back into the forest. We may need to take down a few more trees as we watch how the sun hits the trees over time. But then we can do that just one little tree at a time instead of having taken out way too many. But anyways, as you come in here, some of the things we really wanted off to the left side here, we got two different varieties of fig. There's a lot of us here on the property that really love fig. Bacon wrapped fig is delicious. I love that. But I know my dad's had some good memories with fig, and everyone here always loves some fig. So we got some figs planted here. They need to be planted on mounds. They like a lot of drainage. They need to be elevated to allow deeper root systems. And so since we have such a shallow soil profile here on the property, this allows us to have that. So when we're planting trees, it's the inverse of what you would think. Most people dig, you know, a hole down and plant the tree, where here, because the soil's so shallow, we have to build the mounds up and plant the tree. And then over the years, we're going to be bringing in material, which then will raise up the whole ground level to be even with the top of that mound when we originally planted it. So anyways, at least that's our approach. Anyways, up front here, I originally thought it was the blood orange, but it's, what type of orange is this?
It's a navel orange.
It's a navel orange. It does have a deeper color inside, kind of
Almost red.
Almost a red color, which is pretty neat in that regard. Right up front, we have what they call citrus caviar, but also known as, fingerly limes. These limes are just these little small things. When you pop them open, they have all these little juice bubbles inside, much like caviar, and they're absolutely delicious. We both have the regular and the red. The red's a little harder to get from time to time, and so we got those planted up. So we're really looking forward to that. Off to the side of the fingerly limes, we've got rambutan. Really yummy. I think it's one of the camera girls' favorite fruits there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a rambutan. It literally looks like it comes from the planet Mars. It has all these like weird fingerly hair things coming off of it. But when you open it up, it's kind of more like a grape on the inside. And the flavoring is phenomenal. So,
Tell us a little bit about what do we have going on here in this catchment.
you know, we have to source water down here. We're in a kind of a dry spell. So we dropped a 275-gallon water catchment. And then on the inside, we put some natural fertilizer fermentations that we've started creating here on the property. They're products through the KNF, which is Korean Natural Farming Program. And it's something that I was studying all last year on how to produce natural fertilizers from things right off your property, more or less. And so what we have in here, which is a FPJ from the banana flower, which is a fermented plant juice. It's just a really high natural fertilizer, has a lot of growth hormones in it. So it really helps young plants start to take root and start to build body. The other thing that we put in there is called OHN, and it's just a combination of 7 different herbs that we extracted over a 3 to 4 month period. And when you combine those together, it becomes this kind of like an immune booster for plants. It really helps the plants develop natural immunities to various bacteria and things in the area. But it also acts as a natural fertilizer to help the young plants really establish themselves through those important early years as plants. So we just mixed up a nice big batch of it, and over the next few days, we're just going to constantly be doing some soil soaks with it. As we're watering the plants, we're also like injecting that microbiome into the soils to just help those soils be nice and fertile for our trees to grow and be big.
So that's a lot of what's happening down here, but we'll show you the prized possession of the property and why the property is called Wild Pineapple Farmstead. And we'll head over here and show you our special pineapple patches.
All right, so I mean, before moving here, I thought a pineapple was a pineapple. It didn't matter what it was. You cut into it, it had to have a dull label on it, and it had to be yellow. But coming here, you learn that every fruit that you buy in your grocery store probably has 14 different variety of cousin fruits to it. It's just, for whatever reasons, they never make it to our stores on the mainland, or I don't know how it is worldwide. But the one prize thing that we absolutely fell in love with when we got here, and the previous owner of the property actually had quite a big patch of these, and so he got us started on the right feet, which is the white pineapple. These white pineapples are just absolutely delicious. It's hard to really describe specifically why, but it doesn't have that acidic nature to it, to where it really gives that bitterness. And then you can eat it all the way through the core. And people that typically have a reaction, we know a lot of people that come on property and say, oh, I've never eaten a pineapple because the last time I did, you know, it makes my lips numb or my tongue is irritated. And they eat the white pineapple and they have none of that. And so they're like so excited to be able to actually eat pineapple again. These first two up here, these are actually red pineapples, and they're more ornamental pineapples, although you can eat the pineapple when it grows. It only kicks off a pineapple like every 7 years or so. But they are red when you cut them open. They're red inside. But they're a little more like an agave plant. They have like kind of prickers on the sides of the needles as well. But this is my mom's like pride and joy. She comes out here and works this stuff, constantly weeding it and producing it and making sure we have all the new keikis. Pineapple plants, they kick out these, they're called keikis, but it's like baby plants that start blooming off the plant, and she's really good at extracting those off and expanding our pineapple plants. This past year, I think we got 55 yeah. Pineapples, which we ate them all. Tonight, we're actually, before Belchy Bits and his family leaves, we are going to be putting together a nice white pineapple sorbet, homemade here on the property. So we're all looking forward to that.
This patch looks like it's real weedy. It's mostly perennial peas. We started planting more perennial peas. It helps control weeds, and it's a nitrogen fixer. When we first came here, this is all jungle in here, and our intent was to have little, like, I'll call it a bedroom cottage, or a place that each of us have that we can call our own, that we can go to for our privacy and such, with the main home being the place that we gather and we fix our meals and get together and do things. So as Susan and I walked around, her and I decided on this spot here. The lava flow here had created a flat spot, which makes it just great for building on. So the very first thing I did, though, was I milled a bunch of timbers and built this solar shed, is what I call it. It houses the solar equipment inside, the panels on top. In fact, yesterday, that was where we gathered our power to run the pump to water the orchard over there. So all of our solar systems now are all up and running and all producing power. When we try and run the generators, you know, we just see the dollar signs clicking away. So we try to get this solar up and going. Anyways, this will be our little bedroom cottage that we build up here for ourselves. And it'll be a timber frame structure. I'm gonna use 6x6 timbers of different variety trees. I'll be using ohia and eucalyptus mainly, but there'll be a little bit of western cedar. I can get western cedar up in Volcano, up in that area. There's some western cedars I've been able to get a hold of and mill.
So one of our adventures when one of my, I guess it was my cousin was visiting, we went to a cacao farm and got to learn all about how cacao is grown here on the island. And funny enough, they were growing it in a way that they were saying that they wish they would have grown it in another way. And the way they said cacao on the island probably grows the best is within the forest, like shaded by the upper canopy. And I had cleared this area out a year prior just to kind of push the jungle back off the road. And immediately when they said that, I was like, oh, that's gonna be a perfect space to put some cacao in. So over the next like 4 or 5 months, we started just sourcing various different cacao plants from all these different cacao growers here on the island. The only cacao variety we really don't have that grows on the island is one they call the Jaguar cacao. The price tag's so high and I'm not sure it's worth the squeeze. But as you can see, they really do love, I mean, this is not even a year's worth of growth here. The plants have almost doubled in size. They really do love the airflow. By keeping it cleared out, you get the airflow that they need, the diffused lighting, and then we come in and we plant things like what you see here in front of me. This is a Madre de Cacao, mother of cacao, and it's a nitrogen fixer, so it's a chop and drop. You literally can just prune it, it grows really fast. You just cut it, you don't even have to mulch it, you just throw it right on the ground. But it also attracts all the various types of pests that tend to attack the cacao. And so you always want to plant them as a companion plant if you can. And so we have 4 of those planted throughout as well. So we're expecting, I would say by the end of next year, or this year of 2025, we probably will get our first pods off of these trees. But more than likely it's going to take another year or so to really get some production going out of them. But I mean, the fruit itself is delicious. The meaty part that's on the inside, very healthy. And then I for sure plan on taking it through the roasting process all the way to a cacao butter that we can indulge on, live like kings.
When we came on the property, this tree was kind of in the bushes and that. We weren't sure what it was. It was about like it is right now. And so I just cleared out around it. And about a month later, all this fruit came up right on the trunk. And so we looked it up as Jabuticaba, and it's just become one of our favorite fruits. It looks like a Bing cherry growing right off the side of the trunk itself. Right now it's in blossom, and it's just loaded with blossoms. I know this next one's going to be a real good harvest. And we take that and we juice it. We eat them raw because they're wonderful, but we also juice them. We made a Jabuticaba sorbet the other day that was just to die for. It was wonderful. Tyler actually makes wine with it. It's just a wonderful wine. So yeah, it's one of our favorites. So we've got 2 more trees to plant, and we'll get an area cleared out and get them planted.
And then behind us are well-known banana. Tell us a little bit about how you guys cultivate the bananas and how you take care of them and harvest them.
This banana grove actually is struggling a little bit, as you can see. We've got to get in here and get some more mulch on them. Bananas grow in a mat down below, so you keep that mat healthy and you can keep your bananas healthy. The very front banana patch we walked by near the shop, that grows the biggest racks. The next one is this banana patch here. It grows some nice racks also. Then right behind us is a Caribbean red. Is that what they call it? I think it is.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a different kind of banana, but still very sweet and yummy. And then these, I believe, are apple bananas or something similar to that. But they never grow real big bananas. They're always real small, and a lot of that has to do with just nutrients and water and that. So what we try and do is we'll come in, we'll try to keep the area cleared out around underneath. We, just for aesthetics more than anything, is we try to trim all the dead limbs off. We get a hook knife, like a little sickle, and we put it on the end of a piece of bamboo so we can cut those leaves off. And then we'll come in and we'll add mulch and that at the base. We just haven't got to this orchard yet to do that. And by doing that, then these bananas, that's the kind of stuff they love and they really produce. There'll be times we'll have 6 or 7 racks of bananas and we just don't eat that many. So we freeze them, we make a lot of banana bread.
Bananas are pretty popular at every property, and so even giving them away can be difficult because everyone basically has a banana. Tyler, why don't you tell us about this fern and why it's special and why you take such good care of every single one on the property?
Oh, yeah. Well, these Hapuu fern trees are, the fern tree itself is common throughout all the Pacific Isles. They're on every single isle that you go to. But these here on the island, we call them the Hapuu fern tree. There's a couple different varieties of them. There's also male and females of each of the species. But aesthetically, they're amazing for like landscaping because they create that high laced diffused lighting. It's really important because a lot of other plants, much like these Ethereum, they love them, and orchids and all sorts of things just like to use their husky outside as a environment to grow on. And more specifically, it's more I pay respect back to the original Polynesian explorers that came to the island, and when they were here first arrived, they went through a period of famine and starvation, and one of the plants that the gods told them that they could consume to sustain themselves was the Hapuu fern tree. And so there's a period of time that those Polynesian explorers relied on the Hapuu to sustain themselves as they continued to learn how to cultivate and survive here on a new land. And so being new here myself, I just wanted to pay respect, and I tried to put them in prominent positions and places where people can enjoy them, create groves with them and put them around our property. And yeah, they're just, for whatever reason, they just kind of spoke to me, and I just have been trying to be a good caretaker for them. So yesterday I built this rock wall. We had some extra rock as we were doing the garden or the orchard, and as they get taller, and the winds out here, they can lay down. They rarely ever die. Obviously if it lay down the road it would die, but they rarely ever die. And so it's I just was trying to keep it propped up for a couple more decades, and I think by coming up the trunk with some soil base, it's going to help sustain that, and putting some weight down on its roots, because this one actually fell down from back there, and under the ground is like the original trunk, and then it grew up again. and they only grow 1 to 2 inches a year. And so this one is already a very old Hapuu sitting here. And so I just wanted to make sure that it had a nice environment to live in.
Go.
Okay, so one of the things that we really enjoyed was when we first got here and we came up over this little hill and was looking at the main house. Main house was built in 2007 by the original owner. Hal did a beautiful job on the house. It's just got one master bedroom and an office area, and then the great room, which includes the kitchen, living room area, and 1 bathroom.
Yeah. All right, so Tyler, tell me a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on around us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what's around us?
Yep. So last year we, as a group, we took the Master Gardener class here in Hawaii. It was put on by the university. And part of that, just one of the links that I got out of it, was the link to the state nursery. And I was just amazed at the low pricing that they were offering some of the native and other types of trees that they were offering to be planted either as ornamentals or reforestation of your property. And so I took advantage of it. I literally maxed out the entire order form this first year. They are hardening and kind of like growing up right here. We need to get them out. So we have awesome stuff like koa and sandalwood and Norfolk pine and cypresses and rainbow eucalyptus and all sorts of different things.
Yeah, western
and
cedar.
So just a nice variety to kind of get out and about. We're going to use a lot of it for our property bordering property lines, but also around our places that we're living, just to create diverse ecosystems for other types of animals and stuff to come into. So, but behind me here, this is one of the very first things that I guess it'd be one of the bigger projects that I put together, and then we collaborated on with materials to get it accomplished. And it's just an outdoor bathhouse. I absolutely love not having a bathroom inside a home. I always thought it was weird that wherever you took a crap was the same place you tried to wash your body. And so I wanted to separate that when I was building my own homes on these properties, which I did. And it's also pretty amazing to be out in nature and showering or bathing and soaking after a long hard day in some like an Epsom salt bath or whatever. And so it's more or less a garden with like a clawfoot tub in and a shower. And it was a little bit of a piece of artwork that you know, my father, he helped me mill dimensional lumber that was thin enough for us to bend in a shape, because I really like non-cornered walls, kind of a sweeping flow. They matched the clawfoot tub that I was putting in there. And then from there, we just kind of built out from there. Big lava walkway down to it. And it's an ever-going process. It's also where we keep all of our baby orchids as they're getting used to the property and its space before we put them out into nature and stuff. So it's a real nice place to come out and get clean or just soak and enjoy the place around you.
And tell us about this other structure just behind us and the things we see over here.
So when we first got here, that was the greenhouse that was built on the property. It's more or less just been our salad garden. It's where we've been able to grow stuff for our salads every night. It also is more or less kind of like a laboratory. We've been trying to figure out what type of plants and what it takes to grow certain types of plants. And this has been a really nice structure or space to allow us to practice those things before we take it and expand it into, we're hoping to be able to get a 30 by 60 foot greenhouse put in this year. And we'll just expand our knowledge there and kind of carry that information on. Behind that, we also do all composting here on the property. So all of our bio waste in regards to like food scraps or paper towels and stuff. We have composting bins that ever since we've got on the property, we don't take those to the dump. We actually just take them and keep them right here on property, producing garden compost.
When we first came here on the property, this generator was actually down at the shop, and I really felt like it would be a much better generator to have at the main house, because this is where most of the power is being used. It's a much bigger generator than our other smaller generators. So we poured a pad and moved it up here. That's what this is. That's the backup generator for the house. Eventually it'll be the backup generator also for the greenhouse and for the cabin. And behind it is a 3,000 gallon water catchment. We collect all the water off of our roof and goes there. Next to it is a above ground swimming pool, which can also act as backup water catchment. It's about 9,000 gallons. And I don't know if you may see in the video as you go around, we have additional 300 gallon, 275 gallon totes that are catching any rainwater that's available coming off of a roof. So we try to catch as much water as we can. Like right now, we are in a dry period. We have lots of nice sunny days, but that means we're not getting any rain for rain catchment. So
Yeah, so it seems like when we're getting a lot of sun, we're never worrying about power, and when we're getting a lot of water, we're never worrying about water, but we're worrying about the other things that we're not getting. So there's definitely a balance between it.
20 or 30% of the time, we have those perfect days where we get rain at night and sunshine during the day. So we like those. So speaking of power, to our right, when we first got here, we had 8 275 watt panels that supplied the house. Well, for Hal and his wife, that was probably enough. But for us and everything that we want to do, we knew we needed to expand that solar system. So it got expanded out to what we have today, which is a 6,000 watt inverter with 60,000 watts of battery storage. And then we have 8,000 watts of solar panels on these 2 arrays. And then the greenhouse and Tyler's cabin, they're tied into another 3,000 watt inverter with 4,000 watts of solar. And then Kathy has about 1,500 watts of solar on a 24 volt system. And then down where our place is at, that one is, right now it's about 2,700 watts on a 4,000 watt system. I upscaled it so that on partly cloudy days like today, we still give full charge on the batteries within 4 hours. On real cloudy days, or when we have a lot of rain, then we do have to catch up with the generator. But it allows us, by having this expanded system, to have other, you might say, things that aren't necessarily necessities, which are very good to have here on the property. We quickly realized that our refrigerator was just full all the time, and we never had enough refrigerator space. So I started doing research, and I found a company called CoolBot, and you can use regular AC units, and the CoolBot tricks them into driving that temperature down to 39 degrees. So I took the master bedroom walk-in closet and I converted it into a walk-in cooler. So now we have a nice walk-in cooler that we can keep all of our dairy products and vegetables and all that in there without having to cram it into the refrigerator. And then we're able to buy another chest freezer. We have a full-size freezer upright. We bought a small chest freezer, and we'll probably buy another chest freezer.
What other thing? You have another thing up there that you guys just purchased recently that you guys have been loving. What is it?
So we bought a Harvest Right freeze dryer, again, because we have so many bananas. What do you do with all these bananas? And what do you do with all this soursop? And what do you do with, when we have 100 pineapples, what are we going to do with them? So again, when you look at it, you realize that freeze drying is the way to go, because that'll sit on the shelf. It doesn't require any refrigeration. Up front, it requires a little bit of power. Those freeze dryers do use about 500 watts of power when they're up and running. But we just take a nice day like today, and we'll run that freeze dryer, and we'll freeze dry.
All right, so here we are in a place that you've really started to call home. You've really built some things out. Tell us a little bit of what's around us.
Yep, so we call this little space here that we're sitting in, I'll start here, is we call it the tea garden. A little bit back to what we were talking about with that Mount Mermaid apothecary. It all started with a desire to want to grow our own tea to brew and dry and sell. And we wanted to do more tea blends, but source all the blends from our own place. And so this was a place where we're starting to drop stuff in. I mean, there's probably 20 different varieties of herbs within this little space that we're sitting in. Thrones that we built utilized old ohia roots. As we're like clearing a space, I don't allow any ohia roots ball system to go to waste. I think they're just beautiful when you like upright them and clean them off. And so we have a whole graveyard of root balls that we're going to utilize over the years. But yeah, so that's this space here. Eventually we may have a space. This is where I want to practice doing a tree house up in these trees here, and kind of get a crow's nest to look down off at the shoreline. At about 60 feet in the air, we should be able to look across the entire forest tops, just get inspired and kind of ground us and put us in perspective of where we're at on the island. So that's kind of this space. Big wall of passion fruit behind us here. This is a lilikoi vine that's 2 years old. We got our first fruit this year, so next year we should see a full bloom, I would assume. And the bees from up at the shop, we see them in here all the time because we get a lot of flowers, either on our pineapple sage or any of this other stuff that flowers, strawberries or the ground covering in here. And those bees love to get in here. We see them all the time in the morning. Just over here, we have our guest cabin. It's one of the very first types of structures we put up. It's basically just a modular or a temporary like parking garage you can get at Costco, built on a hard foundation. Kind of a design that Dad went through and improved over the second and third iterations of it. On this one particularly, before we had some guests come and stay long term, I built a solid wall and installed a door, as opposed to a rolling tent door that it normally had. And that just that alone kind of upgraded the space. Has a sawdust toilet for those that can't make it into the main house. There's at least a place where they can go do number ones and throw sawdust on it, and some privacy space. Eventually, the idea is down the line to just literally take the tent down and in place build a solid wall cabin in its place. It has a nice boardwalk walkway that leads up to it and beautiful gardens that we're constantly bringing in flowers. That walkway, I try to bring in all the different types of plants that you can find around the property. So you're getting like a summarized experience of the whole property in one little teeny space. So anytime I find a new plant that we like and we're keeping, I'll try to bring at least one of those and kind of plant it in that front little garden area there, which I don't know, kind of neat with that.
And then what about your main structure?
And then, when we bought the place, it had a little cabin that the original owner's son was living in. And it's just a small little cabin, little studio cabin with a loft. We converted the loft into our little closet space, and Nicole and I fenced in about 1.5 acres around it for all the dogs. So they have open space to run around in. We fence it in at mainly just for the nighttime, so that if we want to, we never shut our doors here. Windows and doors are open 24/7. And so in the middle of the night, the dogs might go out and start chasing different critters at night. We don't want them to get lost deep into the forest at night, so it's more for that sort of thing. But yeah, it's just a nice space. You know, we got a new fire pit built out there, and slowly bringing in trees that I talked about prior, and just kind of building it up.
Nice.
Just simplicity. We understood that you can be happy with a lot less, and we're really trying to live that. And it's just a nice space to sleep in.
All right, Tyler, so here we are. I mean, there's a lot of construction and tools and stuff around here. Why don't you let us know why?
So we're standing in the space where we just cleared out this past year. This is where primarily we were putting in our greenhouse. We're kind of extending our food production in that regards. And this was originally more of a moshy area. Again, going with the theme of me trying to find places where we're not having to take down a lot of these ohia trees, if any. Almost every ohia tree that was in this space, there wasn't many, I actually just picked up with the backhoe and took off to different parts of the forest and just set them down, and they're now growing there instead. So they just got a little bit of a move. But the structures behind us, we wanted to bring on, again with the food production, we want to bring chickens onto the property. Bring some protein with the eggs. So that structure here to the left here was the first chicken coop that we put together, and we had a little bit of fun with it. The design is more or less going to be, when we're all said and done, like a little yellow submarine stranded or hijacked on top of a coral reef. And so we're going to call it Sandy's Coop. But we have all our hens in there right now. The smaller one next to it is something we just recently built here about a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. And it's for the wild chickens that we adopted, and they came on our property. So we've got wild chickens and then domestic hens. They weren't really meshing well, those wild chickens. For my best guess, they're from a long line of fighting roosters, and so they just really have an aggressive tendency. And so we just gave them their own little space, and they're actually the ones producing the eggs for us now. So we get 2 eggs every 2 days, and there's only 2 hens and a rooster in there. And then the structure here behind us is one that my dad built. We all kind of designed together as it was going together. But that's the solar shed that's going to be utilized primarily. It was for the greenhouse, but it also was going to have enough power production to produce for the other cabins in the area. And then eventually this space will host a nice circle drive with a gigantic, about a 20,000 gallon pond that we'll use to water the greenhouse, and also have another food source in there, some sort of fish, whether it's catfish or tilapia, living within that pond. But also using that nutrient dense water, because there are fish living in it, will be amazing to use the water.
All the windows and that are in that solar shed were windows that we got, we salvaged rather than going and buying new windows. We just salvaged them. All the walls were all built from milled lumber. The only thing we had to buy were the solar panels and some of the 2x6s for the roofing. The siding also we bought. Yeah. But I've started now playing around with board and batten siding. I can take that eucalyptus and make some really pretty board and batten siding. In the future, we won't have to necessarily buy siding unless we want that look. When we get the greenhouses up, we have a big stack of pallets over there. Those pallets will be utilized for making all of our grow boxes. So we're always gathering up pallets. They're always giving them away behind stores and such, so we gather them up and just store them over here.
Well, I hope you guys have really appreciated this kind of tour of our property. The Wild Pineapple Farmstead is definitely a place that we have really grown to love, and we have really grown to connect with. It's something more than just like work and effort. We always wanted something a little bit just more. We wanted to develop something for ourselves, and it really is a place that we've all come to connect and really learn from the experiences that we have here. It's about kind of connecting with the earth. It's also connecting with each other. And we do spend a lot of time reaching out to the people around us and connecting with them. And so we really hope that you've been inspired. Maybe there's something that you want to do. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.